And good Friday afternoon, everybody. I'm Brady Tinker. It's time for Off of the Helmets to talk Dallas Cowboys football. And I thought maybe for a minute there might be a little bit of slowdown in covering the Dallas Cowboys. There is not going to be. This is a 12-month out of the year job, and it is only getting better and better because, by the way, you have a team that's won 24 games in the last 2 years. So let's talk Cowboys because the offseason has started with a bang. Defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, that we were certain was going to get a head coaching job, sent out a note about a week ago to everyone he was talking to in the I want to be a head coach speak and said, I'm staying with the Dallas Cowboys. I still have no insight as to did Jerry promise something overpay similar to what he did last year, but I know we'll hear from Jerry as we did last year where he said, I went out and made sure he stayed with my money. I'm certain that's the case. And I also wonder if Dan Quinn got to a point 2 years into this where this thing is ascending and going so well. And he's 2 years older and he's settled in and he likes Mike McCarthy and he can deal with the Joneses, that he didn't just say, you know what, if I'm getting paid like a head coach, this is probably where I want to stay, because a head coaching job is another 30 hours a week for me to try and take over, move to a different city, get my family uprooted, et cetera. I think that's what happened to Dan Quinn. If I can confirm that, I'll let you know. Otherwise, it's just my conjecture. Offensive coordinator Kellen Moore is out. Head coach Mike McCarthy obviously stays and will take over the offensive coordinator position. I think all of that is perfect. I really do. So the goal here will be to make this offense more Dak friendly. But that is not anywhere near the same as all the years of trying to make things Romo friendly, because Dak's abilities are stronger in some places than Tony's and certainly not as strong in others. And the bottom line is 24 wins in 2 years should be leading you to think about winning a Super Bowl championship. And that's where the Cowboys are at, and that's where you want them to be. All of that and more coming up right now on Off of the Helmets. So pretty soon, there will be a great little open that will come in there. You'll be really impressed with it. So these little pauses that I do, bear with me, because I'm essentially just practicing as this thing gets better and better and adds more sponsors. But bear with me. So it's Off of the Helmets. I'm Brady Tinker. I'm thrilled that you're here. Thanks for being here on a Friday afternoon on a live show. We've had 2 inches of ice for most of the week, which doesn't happen in Texas. If you're Texas people, you understand that. It's been a long week of being shut in. I was cooped up. I did a lot of studying. I came up with a lot of different points of view and a lot of conversations for you and I to have. So let's get to it. The topics today are coaches are staying and some coaches are going. A new direction to help Dak Prescott be a Final 4 quarterback or a Final 2 quarterback, because I believe the team is certainly firmly entrenched in the Final 8 area code. And it's not that far from here to there. Now, winning a Super Bowl championship is something different because it also comes with unbelievable talent, cohesiveness, luck of health, et cetera, but they're close. The owners take on reloading, and they're going to continue to do that because Jerry Jones is 80-something and knows his window to be able to continue to at least serve in the role that he serves at and be as active as he is getting smaller. It's time now. We'll talk about the new offense. We'll talk about the draft a little bit, but I'm going to dive so deep into this draft in the next month and a half or 2 months and get all of my sources and get all of my best thoughts and ideas from everyone around me that helps me. So we'll do draft. Today, we're just going to do a little bit so that you can have water cooler conversations about what direction the draft should go. And then we'll take a brief look back at a pretty damn fine Dallas Cowboys season. 12 wins for the second season in a row. First time that's happened since 92-93. All that in 30 minutes, so let's go. The Cowboys coaching group is where we start. Head coach Mike McCarthy, in the last 2 years, has won 24 games. He's made some fantastic adjustments along the way. Maybe last year you questioned him more than you did this year. Fair enough. In coaching decisions got better this season, but ultimately, Mike McCarthy, from my point of view, and I just want to pass this to you, has the complete trust, as close as you can get, of essentially 70 men on this Dallas Cowboys football team, not to mention ownership, Will McClay, and everyone who works with him and around him. He and Dan Quinn are on the same page. The direction of this team is firmly put. There is a firm path for what this Cowboys team is doing. There is no reason to change. You make subtle changes and certainly the one that stood out at the end of this year was, as good as Dak Prescott is at a lot of things, he wasn't quite what we needed him to be in the San Francisco game and what might have happened in a Philadelphia game, et cetera, et cetera. But he's close. And the truth is, his contract is so massive, you're not going a different direction. This is where you are. Okay. So McCarthy stays. He's been a, quote, walk-around head coach since he's been here. I'm not sure how important that is, but he's going to go back to doing what he's really good at, and that is being an offensive coordinator. If you remember, Kellen Moore was here when Mike McCarthy got here. Mike was asked to take on Kellen Moore, to get to know him and appreciate him, and told that he was seen as the second coming of a brilliant offensive mind that probably wouldn't be here for more than a year or two because he's going to get another head coaching job. None of that happened, but the two of them certainly got along. Dak Prescott is tied to Kellen Moore, has known him his entire career as a professional football player. There's a relationship there as well. But McCarthy now will be the offensive coordinator. And if you followed him at all in Green Bay, or you want to know what to expect a more forceful, physical offense. Expect more 2, 3, and ridiculously 4 tight end sets on occasion. Expect a West Coast type of offense and a scheme, a true scheme, because the truth is, under Kellen Moore, there has never been an offensive scheme. He is a really good and brilliant at times play caller as the game goes along. But like many of us might be, he's a really good, brilliant play caller, is Kellen Moore, when things are going well, when the football is being run brilliantly. Okay, I would submit plenty of us might be pretty decent at calling the next play after you've gone 9, 8, 9 on running plays. What do you want to call? Almost anything will work. So that was Kellen Moore. He's gone. He did not get fired. It was a mutual decision for him to leave. He had another job lined up, or his phone was firing up, and he ends up in LA with the Chargers, and that probably saves their head coach's job at least for a while. So McCarthy stays. He's head coach. He's done a really good job. He is a player's coach. 24 wins in the last 2 years is a massive number. The arrow continues to point up. I know many of you are disappointed in 2 straight losses to San Francisco. Certainly, to me, different sets of circumstances. Once Tony Pollard was out, that game was going to be tough to win this year. You weren't going to beat Philadelphia without Tony Pollard in the following week. So let's move forward. The West Coast offense will give this team a scheme, will make things easier for Dak Prescott. It will be a lot of 1, 2, 3 and out, 1, 2, 3 and out, 1, 2, 3 and out. When you watch confident Dak, where he has his wits about him and he's on time with the football and things are moving in a rhythm, that's when he's at his best. Let's face it. He's at his best when he has a running game, when he gets good blocking, and when there is a rhythm to the offense. When there's a rhythm, he's really good. I mean, there's no denying nearly 35 points a game this year when he played. There's no denying the success of this offense as you approach the playoffs this year. There is no denying the Cowboys were top 3 in red zone conversions. They were top 5 in converting third downs. Those are direct reflections of what the quarterback and the offense does. Those are huge things. Those are things that teams that win playoff games and Super Bowls do. Do not push those aside. Dan Quinn will stay defensive coordinator. He had head coaching opportunities on the table. I don't know if anybody was about to offer him a job, but I know he was very well thought of, and he was in the mix for 2 or 3 jobs. And then all of a sudden we get a quote that says he has told all NFL teams that he was talking to, quote, "I am staying with the Dallas Cowboys." How that happened, I don't know. Why that happened, we can take a guess. Certainly it will involve an extension of contract and more money. Good for him. He's earned every bit of it. The last 2 years, this defense has led the NFL in turnovers. Do you know the last time that happened in the NFL, where the same defensive team year after year, back-to-back years, led the NFL in turnovers? The early 70s Pittsburgh Steelers steel curtain. It's been a long time. It's an impressive number. This team pressures the quarterback. This team sacks the quarterback. This team obviously turns the football over. All of those things make such a difference in winning games and getting from 9 or 10 wins to 11, 12, 13, or 14 wins. They are huge. They pressure the passer. They hit the passer. Questions or things that could get better, and they can be addressed in the draft. Run stopping overall, tackling overall. Those things are aided by depth, by additional talent, and certainly by having the right disposition, which I believe this defense's disposition is one of a great amount of confidence. that they see themselves as a team that puts pressure on people and that turns the football over. All of those things are great. Is their disposition perfect when it comes to being a fly around and hit people all the time defense? A work in progress is what I would say about that. A work in progress. And the note that I've given you several times this year when we were talking about the San Francisco 49ers is this is where you want to be. The San Francisco 49ers played 17 games this year. In the 15 that didn't have a bye week or something else, the team that played the 49ers the week before were 0-15 the following week. Okay, that's what you want, because the 49ers were so freaking physical that the next week the team that had played them lost every single game. Every single game, because you couldn't get over the physicality of the San Francisco 49ers. That's where I would like to take this opportunistic pass pressuring turnover defense to one more level, and that is, geez, we're playing the Cowboys defense. This is going to be a car wreck on every play. That's the last thing you want, and I believe you'll get that from Dan Quinn as long as the draft goes the way it's supposed to go, which is heavy on offensive line, heavy on defense. Any type of playmakers you can get me on defense, and then go back out and let Will McClay run the draft beautifully as he always does, and also find those gem free agents to stick into places where Dan Quinn can make them better. Offensive coordinator Kellen Moore is now gone. Dak loved him. Kellen Moore did some really good things here. He was thought to be the golden child 3 or 4 years ago that was absolutely going to get a head coaching job. That didn't happen. He came relatively close this year to getting the Carolina job. And the reason that he wasn't released or fired sooner was the Cowboys have a value for him as a person as well as a head coach. And, that's how this organization is. They loved Kellen Moore. They loved almost everything that Kellen Moore did. They did not want to fire Kellen Moore while he was in the process of almost getting, or hopefully getting for him, the head coaching job in Carolina. They were kind to him. Once that did not come about, he knew he wasn't staying. And I think he actually felt like, you know what? I've been taking a lot of hits the last 2 or 3 years over this. I think there are other jobs for me to get. I'm okay with moving on. I'm young. I'm still on the upswing. No reason to get fired. The Cowboys were very kind to him. He was good to them, and I think everyone wins. So Kellen Moore now is in the Chargers system as the offensive coordinator there. He's got a really good quarterback, got a couple of good wide receivers, he's got a really good running back, he's got a really good defense to support that. Kellen Moore should do very well with the Chargers. There is a scheme on this defense and with special teams. There was not with the offense. There will be now. Some version of Mike McCarthy's West Coast offense, which, to be honest with you, is some version of what Philadelphia does, and certainly a lot of what San Francisco does. Those are the two teams that are going to be in your way, making all things equal, in the NFC and now in the NFC East for the next 2 or 3 years. You'll have to overcome them. It's going to be hard to beat the Eagles, who are set up in a much better position going forward in the draft than are the Cowboys. And I would say if I look at the Eagles roster, there is, 10% better depth across the board on the Eagles roster, certainly on the offensive line and the defensive line, than there is in the Cowboys. Those are things to work for and to try and achieve. The offense will use a lot more 2 and 3 tight end sets. Jake Ferguson made big steps forward. Peyton Hendershot did not catch as many balls as you maybe would have hoped, but he's a very good blocker, as is Ferguson. Even Sean McKeon did a fine job. Those 3 guys are all under 25 years old. Lots of jumbo packages coming for the Cowboys offense. It's a West Coast offense. It will be more run-based. The ball will come quickly out of Dak Prescott's hands. It will be more rhythm and timing. If you watch San Francisco really closely, what they're really good at is showing you formations and movement that say they're running left. And instead, you all sort of lean that way and they throw a screen right. That's what they're good at. The Cowboys are going to get better and better at that. As far as personnel goes, you're saying, well, you're telling me it's going to be a massive running game. Is Zeke returning? We'll get into that much more deeply, but the answer probably most likely is no. As good a season as he had, now he really got tired last 4 or 5 games of the year, but he had a really good season, double digits in touchdowns. He led by example. He picked up every blitz. He's somebody they want in that locker room for years to come, because that's what the Cowboys do. But by cutting him, they can save almost $13 million. That's money they need. As we stand right now, they are upside down against the salary cap, so they're going to need help. We're going to talk about how that gets better as well in just a minute. So most likely Zeke is not here. Is Tony Pollard here? You would think that's an automatic yes. Over 1,300 total yards, 12 touchdowns. He was who we thought he was for the last couple of years, finally given the opportunity. He was one of the people and one of the big momentum forces that allowed this Cowboy team to get 12 wins again, but to sort of be more dangerous in the playoffs with a chance to get to the final game. He definitely was. But next year will be his 5th year. How many teams in the NFL sign a 5th-year running back to a contract extension? 1 year is something, but 2, 3, 4 years with $30-40 million guaranteed, that's a big risk. That's a big risk just based on running backs in their 5th year. Now, it's an even bigger risk when he's coming off a surgery. Okay, he had a broken tibia. It wasn't the biggest surgery in the world, as I'm told, and I can't get too into it because I'm not a doctor, but it could have been worse. It could have been screws and bolts and hammers and nails. It wasn't. But it's still a surgery of a foot of a running back heading into his 5th year. And ultimately, I think he's going to get offered between $7 and $12 million a year with a guaranteed number of somewhere around $30 million for the next 3 to 4 years. That's a big number for years 5, 6, 7, and in theory 8 for Tony Pollard. If that number gets to that level, I don't think Tony Pollard will be here. Then are you drafting or are you signing free agents? Maybe a combination of both, but we'll talk about that. So the offense is going to be West Coasty. It's going to run more. It's going to be more dominant at the point of attack. It's going to be more physical. And as you sit here now, Brady's telling me we probably don't have any running backs. That would be accurate. Will McClay. Working for the Joneses is not the easiest thing in the world. We all know that. Will McClay has done an incredible job. And I went back and I thought, without even looking at the free agents that he signed, so many of them timely, let's look at the draft. So last year, Tyler Smith and Sam Williams, thumbs up. Jake Ferguson. Matt Waletzko, I'd like to know more about. That was a late round offensive lineman who I'm not hearing much about now. They could use that depth. So hopefully Matt Waletzko is on this team as well. Jalen Tolbert, they're not done with him yet. 3rd round pick. Last year, Micah Parsons, Osei Odigizua, Chauncey Golston, certainly Kelvin Joseph and Nashawn Wright are certainly question marks. They're still going to be here at least as you head to camp. The year before that, CeeDee Lamb and Diggs and Tyler Biadasz and Neville Gallimore. Holy shit. You didn't believe in Tyler Biadasz, but you do now. The year before that, Tristan Hill. I had to throw that one in. Sometimes you swing and miss. Connor McGovern, Tony Pollard, Donovan Wilson. Pretty damn good. The year before that, Leighton Vander Esch, Michael Gallup, Dorrance Armstrong, and Cedric Wilson. Okay, that's the last 5 years. All of those people that I just named are still on this team. Okay, however many that is, that's roughly 20. Okay, that's a big core nucleus and a great job by Will. I'm back. I don't know whether we had a power outage. I had a minor stroke or I hit the wrong button, but I think maybe it was the last one. As we continue, if you stayed with me, thank you very much. Page 4, Jerry Jones. Just ready yourself for certain things. The quote that means something and that has been echoed by his son, Stephen Jones, is I will take my chances again and again and again with Dak Prescott. You need to believe him. He certainly talks to people all over the league, brilliant people, friends, nosy people, people who know football, probably some who don't. And he gathers it all in a big mosh pit and makes his decisions after talking to Stephen and Will and whoever else. This ship has sailed. Dak Prescott is going to be put in a position to play better football. maybe for the next, quote, 10 years. We'll get to the Stephen Jones quote in just a minute. The Cowboys will have a cap number on Dak Prescott next year, $47 million, and the year following that, $51 million. There is a way out after next year, but it's not the best of ways. So they love the person and the physicality and the quarterback overall that is Dak Prescott. He is staying. We can break him down all we want. The truth is, he hasn't gotten better. He was probably at his best with 23 touchdowns and 4 interceptions his 2016 year. But if you remember back, the offensive line was great. The running game was great. The defense was great. Health was great. The whole world was perfect. It was the most perfect storm in the world for Romo to get hurt and Dak to step in and go on a winning streak, which set all of this in motion. The next year, he had 11 interceptions. The year after that, he had 8. He has been a non-interception guy until the last couple of years. Now, in 21, I think it was 37 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. We can live with that. But the bottom line is he wasn't his most confident physically about what had happened to him with that massive surgery on his leg. 22, he got more and more confident after the hand healed. And we finally saw at least the physical tone of a Dak Prescott that we knew back in 16 and 17. Good, thumbs up, because he is big, strong, has the ability to run, has the ability to make every throw. There's not much Dak can't do. It was just a little bit limited in that I think the offensive coordinator was not the right guy. There are things you can do to make that better, and so they're going to. Jerry said again, I'll take my chances again and again with Dak. What that's going to lead to is a substantial extension of Dak Prescott. It's coming. Stephen Jones said the other day, quote, Dak could conceivably be our quarterback for the next 10 years. That would make his career 16, 17, 18 years long. We'll see. By the way, Brock Purdy, doing so well last minute for San Francisco, has Jerry back on a theme that was talked about around here by Bill Parcells, certainly, and echoed by Mike McCarthy in his years here, and that is we should draft a damn quarterback every year. Whether it be round 5, 6, or 7, we should draft a quarterback every year. Jerry is now on board with that. Dak has 2 years left on a 4-year, $160 million deal that was signed in 2021. His number next year, as I mentioned, will be, I was wrong, $49 million hit and 51 next year. Untenable. You're already upside down the salary cap, as it were. This is going to have to be a rework. They're going to do it. It's going to be a bonus upfront, a major cash bonus upfront, an extension, a rework, and go. From minus essentially $12 million as they sit here right now on the salary cap for the Cowboys. So they have no leeway to do anything. They could get this conceivably to, we have $28 to $32 million worth of cap space. Now it's time to go to work. And in free agency, that's where I'd like to see an additional wide receiver address. That's where I'd like to see at least a little running back depth because nowadays it's not one running back. It's often 2 and even more often 3. And I think that's where the league is going. It's such a physical league. You're just not putting 315 carries on a running back unless you plan on him being dead in the next year or 2. Thus, what happened to Zeke Elliott? Draft thoughts. For 2023, and we will get much, much deeper into this, but for 2023, I prefer all the athletes I can get, as many from the SEC as I can possibly get, and they start with cornerbacks. So Cam Smith of South Carolina has a chance to fall all the way to 26. Keely Ringo of Georgia, maybe. There's already the dalliance with Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, the very, very, very good running back from Texas, is not going to 26. He probably goes somewhere in the 10 to 15 range, except that we had this discussion on Sportsbook Confessions last night. There were no running backs drafted last year in the first round, 0. And that is the trend for the NFL because you need multiple running backs. Giving a running back who you draft in the first round a 5-year contract, that's what he gets. Then he's going to hold out after year 3 because he doesn't want to get to year 4 and year 5, et cetera. And all of a sudden you're in this dalliance with, am I having an 8-year running back? The answer is no, you're not, at least not one that's good. Running backs are good for 3 years. NFL stands for not for long, especially when it comes to running backs. So if Bijan Robinson somehow, because of the new push away from first-round running backs, gets into that 20, 21, 22, 23 range, Maybe the Cowboys move up, because I will say we just decided they're going defense and running game, and Bijan Robinson has a chance to be a phenomenal player. It's not what I'm rooting for, to be honest with you, but it would be tough to turn him down if he gets into the 20s and you have to move up a little bit. Just saying. The other cornerback I really like is Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State. Those are three names: Cam Smith, Keely Ringo, and Joey Porter Jr. There are four more that could be really good players at pick number 26. On the offensive line, offensive tackle Peter Skorinsky of Northwestern is probably the top guy. He's probably a top 10 pick. Offensive tackle Paris Johnson of Ohio State, and there are several more. Why do I want to tackle? Well, we don't know what's going to happen with Terrence Steele. We do know we absolutely struck gold, and way to go everybody who fought for Tyler Smith, because it looks to me like he's going to be a perennial All-Pro. His disposition, work ethic, and ability to get past his penalties and his lazy footwork have all been shown. You got to admit, I mean, we thought Tyler Smith might be the worst draft pick this team has made in years, and instead it's flipped on its ear. He's a phenomenal football player and kid. Way to go. But you need more. If we're going to be the team we're talking about being, which is more physical, more runs, more. You went into the playoffs last year with a 42-year-old as essentially your only back for this entire offensive line. That's probably not good enough. So you're going to draft offensive tackles and or the best offensive linemen you can find in this draft: cornerbacks and offensive linemen. Other than that, edge rushers. And you're thinking, wait, Tank, Micah, and Dorrance, and we need edge rushers. Tank's been playing a long time, ended this season and had a really, really good season. In my opinion, Dorrance had a breakout season and paid him roughly $3.5 million a year. He got 8.5 sacks. That's a huge thumbs up on Dorrance Armstrong. Obviously, Micah Parsons is a top 3 defensive player, but what you don't want, and what happened during this season to slow Micah down, was he had his hand and or his stance way too often lined up head against left tackles or right tackles. He's giving up sometimes 100 pounds. You want Micah Parsons to be able to be the walk-around guy, to walk in whichever A-gap or B-gap or whatever he likes, to put that other team on notice of, you've got to find me. That's what you want more when Micah Parsons is rushing the quarterback, not standing in front of a man who weighs 100 pounds more than him. So I don't even include him as a defensive end. Probably played the last 8 games of the season, did Micah Parsons, at roughly 230 pounds, maybe even less. Imagine putting him against the road graders that are at left tackle and right tackle, and he's getting chipped by a running back or a tight end, et cetera, et cetera. No wonder he was worn out. So, yes, on D-line, edge rushers. Yes, to be honest with you, if this is a defense-first team, to be honest with you, anybody who's special. Now, we'll have a conversation about whether Diggs is special or not. I believe he is. We certainly know Micah Parsons is, but another special, I don't care who it is. If it's a linebacker, even though you don't play a lot of linebacker here, fine with me. If it's another safety, fine with me. If it's a shutdown cornerback, fine with me, or an edge rusher, fine with me. Make the defense on this football team a dominant group, and they're close, right? 2 years in a row, they lead the NFL in turnovers. That doesn't happen. This is close, and they got the right coach as well and the right head coach. It's a defense-first team. It's a run-second operation. Third, it's a punt group. As Jerry said earlier in the season, you win a lot of games being able to run the football and punt it. Well said. If you're doubting the plan, remember this. Change takes time. If you're shouting at the screen right now here on YouTube for Off of the Helmet saying, you're killing me with Dak, we're going to end up in the same position we were. It's 26 years. It's 26 years. It's not. You need to stop that. 2 straight 12-win seasons, 24 wins back-to-back, lead the NFL in turnovers in back-to-back seasons. All of the coaching staff that you really genuinely need is still here. There is a great disposition and attitude for this group and this football team, one unlike I have seen in a long, long time, probably all the way back to Jimmy Johnson in the 90s. Maybe I saw it a little bit with Parcells for a year or two, but he didn't have the talent. This thing is going in the right way. Change would take so much time. You can't get out of Dak this year. You could, in theory, get out of him next year. And then what? And then what? Because the bottom line is you can't win a Super Bowl, almost completely can't win a Super Bowl without at least a very good quarterback. If you can take Dak one more step and give him the great defense and the great running back, he is a very good quarterback. And by the way, you're screwed with this contract anyway, so live with it. As far as team chemistry and unity and toughness and disposition, getting better and better and better. This is a final 8 team for next season as you sit here right now as you sit here. In theory and in hopes, if they have a great draft and they do a good job with free agency and Will McClay comes through like he always does, maybe it's a top 6 team as we head into week number 1 of the NFL season next year. Momentum, consistency, excellence, proper disposition are all things that take a long time to have be a part of the fabric of who you are as a football team, right? If we talk about who the fabric of this football team for the last 26 years, for the most part, has been offensive based, right? They've been a sexy, fun team. Romo was fun. That offense was fun. Dak coming in and really for the majority of the first 7 years of his career, this has been a fun offense based team. It has purposely become more and more of a defense based physical football team. Think about the teams that always win. Right? Baltimore always wins. Pittsburgh always wins. I'm not saying Super Bowls. I'm saying always puts themselves in position to be in the playoffs and get in the dance and have a chance to win a Super Bowl. They do. Green Bay always wins. Kansas City is an outlier because they are basically an offensive first football team run by a genius of a head coach and a quarterback by the best quarterback in football. And still, as you look at the Super Bowl, Kansas City is going to struggle in this game because their defense probably isn't good enough to shut down this Eagles offense. We'll see. But that's my first blush at this, and I'm from Kansas City. So momentum, consistency, excellence, and disposition are hard to come by and hard to craft and get yourself moving down that train, down that track. And that's where this team is. I promise you that's where this team is. It is hard to win championships. You put together these great teams. Look at San Francisco, right? San Francisco went through 4 quarterbacks this year and almost made it to the Super Bowl. 4 quarterbacks. They were unlucky. They had the best defense in the NFL. They made a perfect trade going for it at the right time with Christian McCaffrey. They built such an unbelievable offensive system and scheme with that head coach that almost anyone could run it. And yet, injury after injury after injury. And if you're a 49er fan, you're bitter. This team was good. This team was plenty good enough to beat the Eagles. It certainly was. And they just could not get that last little bit of health to get them over the edge, to get them in the big game. Oddly enough, it would have been against Kansas City, who they played 3 years ago. They're in position to maintain excellence. And I think that's what you want. I think the pride factor that you feel in your Cowboys, so many of you are live or die no matter what happens to them, so you're on board. But those of you who jump on and off and who constantly will come back to the dinner conversation after a scotch or two of never going to win fucking shit with Jerry Jones as the owner. Got to get past all that. Never going to win with Dak Prescott as a quarterback. You got to get past all that because I promise you both of those things can happen. Has Jerry been meddlesome through the years and probably hurt this team in certain years? Certainly he has, but not in the last 6, 7, 8 years. Steven's really been running things. McClay's been doing the draft. The coaching staff has been solid. The building has been solid. So a little bit of meddling isn't going to hurt things. Jerry is intentioned perfectly and will spend all of his money to get what you want. Coaching staff is here. I'm telling you, this thing is headed in the right direction. It was a really, really good season for the Dallas Cowboys. So do you re-sign Diggs now based on what you saw, based on business decisions at not lighting Kittle up, based on a clear regression in the number of turnovers he got? My thought is yes, but you might be able to wait a year. Do you re-sign CD Lamb? My thought is yes. I think what I saw in CD Lamb was literally a bunch of personal growth where he, somewhere in the middle when Dak came back, got his confidence of, I am a number one. I have the physical skills to be a number one. I want to be a number one. I like that quarterback and he likes me. Nothing about that is going to change. So I signed CeeDee Lamb to an extension in the offseason. I hold off on Diggs because I probably don't have to yet and make him give me one more prove-it season. All of those conversations next week, right before the Super Bowl. Get ready for the Super Bowl. We will get ready for the draft even deeper. We will talk about the 17 free agents the Cowboys have and which of them are going to stay and how much they might cost. So much more to do. It has been a terrific Dallas Cowboys season. I enjoyed today with you with Off the Helmets. I'm sorry that I may have clicked the button and literally turned us off. I used to have directors and producers. Now all of this stuff gets done at your home. So you turn on your own lights, you put on your own little bit of makeup because you're getting old. And then every now and then you just turn off your own feed. Never happened at Fox Sports. But I am getting older. but I'm enjoying this very much. So thanks so much to all of you who joined us. Thanks to East Coast Sports Investors. Thanks to Kiefer and Jeff and everyone who supports me in this endeavor. I enjoy talking football with you. I enjoy covering this great Dallas Cowboys football team, and I can't wait to talk to you next Friday as we head to the Super Bowl, and there's so much more. I mean, in a week, big shit's going to happen with the Cowboys between now and next Friday. I'll see you then. I'm Brady Tinker for Off of the Helmets.